everybody, I'm Kim, and today I'm going to go over how to do the cross-country move to San Antonio, Texas. So, if you're someone who's looking to move to the area, you're coming here from out of state, this is the perfect channel, it's the perfect video for you. I'd love to hear from you. I'm a realtor here. I've done the cross-country move myself several years ago, so I know what it's like. I know it can be daunting, and there's a lot of questions, it can be overwhelming, but you know what? It can be done, and here's some tips. The two main things that come up would be getting a job here in San Antonio, cover your living expenses, and where you're going to live. So those are the two main things I'm going to go over. And first would be that job. And there's several ways to do it. I'm going to go over it in order of difficulty. And first would be, of course, if your job is all remote based, or if you can get a job that's all remote based, if that's a possibility in your field, well, all you need then is a Wi-Fi connection, and definitely makes it a lot easier to do that move here. You just take a week or two off while you're moving. And here's a nice thing. Here in Texas, it doesn't matter where your job is located. You pay state income tax based on where you live. And here in Texas, there's no state income tax. Zero. Next would be, if you're in the military, we have 4 military bases here. If you get PCS orders to come here to San Antonio, then the military definitely helps you out. You have the job in hand with the military, and they definitely help out with your moving expenses, whether that can be getting reimbursed or they can be tax deductible. And next would be a job transfer. Here in San Antonio, it's the 7th biggest city in the United States. We have many employers here, many more moving here. So if it's possible for you to transfer within your company, that's another seamless transition, another possibility. So this video was made in October 2021, towards the end of the COVID era. So San Antonio here is like many other parts in the country where there's labor shortage, hard for employers to find employees. So it definitely makes it that much easier for you if you're looking for work. Find a job here. There are many different fields here that are hiring, and you could definitely apply to that job before you even move here to San Antonio. Or of course you could always save up about 6 months pay and move just to be conservative, just to be safe, and then move here and apply for jobs. But it's always easiest to have that in hand before you move. And the reason I'm going over the job offer is you need that job offer letter in hand in order to get financing for a house. If you're doing all cash, it won't be a problem, but lenders will look for that letter showing your salary, showing that you're employed, in order to approve you for financing for a mortgage. Which brings me to my next point, would be, where am I going to live? And of course there's several different options, and which brings me to my next point, the housing situation. And now ideally, in a perfect world, you would have everything lined up, timing would be perfect. Your lease is up right when you're about to close on your new home in San Antonio. Or you're selling your home and the closing date for your current home is right before the closing of your new home in San Antonio. Everything's perfect. You only have to move your stuff once. Everything's great. But not everything works out like that. There are several different options. If you're looking to sell your house in order to buy a house here in San Antonio, you need that equity. As of October 2021, it is still a seller's market, which means you have the negotiating power and you can negotiate what's called a rent back. Now this may vary state to state. It may not be available in all states, so check with your local realtor in your state. But what that means is when the buyer buys your house, they become the new owner of that house. As the seller, you could then become the tenant and rent that house back from the buyer, who would be the landlord. And that's usually worked out as a per day fee, negotiable between buyer and seller. And it may vary by state. Here in Texas, it could only be for up to 60 days. Because the buyer would have to possess the property within 60 days if they're doing financing. But that will give you some flexibility as far as giving you a couple extra months to find your new home, to move in. You'd only have to move your stuff once. So that's one option. Another one would be if you have friends or family that live here in San Antonio and you can stand to live with them for several months under the same roof, because that's a big factor. If they don't drive you crazy, then that would be rent-free for several months right there. If neither of those are options for you, you may be considering, well, I'm just going to rent here in San Antonio until I can buy. Well, one thing with that, I just want to give you a word of advice on that. Whether you go with me, whether you go with another realtor, I'm just going to rent until I can buy. It'd be great to give me that flexibility. Well, I just want to give you some guidance so you're not going in blind to San Antonio's rental market. So I'm sure you saw in the news back in springtime, it was a historic seller's market in housing. A lot of buyers gave up looking to buy a home and ended up renting instead. So that drove up the price of the rental market. So rent got even higher, got more competitive. And on top of that, you have people coming here from out of state that are not in a position to buy it just yet, so they choose to rent. So that's adding more renters, adding more fuel to the rental market, which means if you decide to rent, it just gets competitive. Some of them are best application instead of first come, first serve. It's next to impossible to find a month-to-month, a 3-month, or a 6-month lease. Many of them are 12-month minimum, even 24 months minimum, and it's a lot of competition. And one thing, even if you can get that 12-month lease, one thing I would caution, whether you go with me, whether you go with another realtor, and one thing I would caution about that 12-month lease, whether you go with me or whether you go with another realtor, is if you're looking to buy in the future, that 12-month lease, that locks you in for a full year. You have no flexibility if you find your dream home before then. All that money that would have otherwise gone towards saving up for your down payment or the equity that you had pulled out of the house you sold for your new house, that money would be going to a landlord you wouldn't see again. Not to mention, just rent prices are going up, and home prices are going up. So that same home now, a year from now, may be out of your price range. I mean, I'll be honest, the home I live in now, I won't be able to afford it if I bought it today. So what I recommend is flexibility. So I would say the two ideal options, if you need somewhere to stay temporarily until you move into your new house, one would be a long-term Airbnb. I've looked up the prices for clients before, and they're pretty reasonable. They're comparable to what 1 month rent would be on a 12-month lease. You find them all over the city, and of course they don't check rent. You can book your stay, just like staying at a hotel. Another option would be the extended stays. If you're unfamiliar with that, it's like a long-term hotel stay. It has all the amenities in an apartment, and it has a flexibility where you can book it. They don't ask for a credit score, and prices vary with our different chains. I found that there's extended stay, there's in-town suites, which I found is a little cheaper than extended stay, and we have others as well. And lastly, we do have corporate housing as well, although I've looked that up, and that can be like $3,000 a month, so that's pretty high. Of course, there's everything else that comes with moving, updating your utilities and driver's license, and getting new doctors, new service providers, making new friends. If you're watching this video, feel free to contact me, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, y'all, and have a great week.